Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. I'm getting nervous for my dental surgery, but I'm excited to find out what I'm going to read while I'm high on painkillers after my dental surgery on this week's new comic book day, April 21st, 2021. So to see what I think you should explain to me when I come down from my, I don't know what painkillers are in that prescription bag, you'll have to find out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Alright, so this is a relatively large week for me. I think I saw 27, 28 books at the bottom of my list. 28. So, here we go. First up from Black Mass Studios is Alice in Leatherland #1. This is going to be the second book I think I've pulled in real time from Black Mass Studios in addition to Destiny New York. But I'm excited to see what happens in terms of a fiction writer dealing with, relationship drama. And see what kind of, oddities ensue in this book. Next up from Marvel is Alien #2. I really liked #1 in terms of the story and the father having to potentially return to the Epsilon station that he just retired from to see what his son is now up to. That are we going to now have to deal with all of the alien things that scare the shit out of us from the films. Also from Marvel is Avengers #45. The end of the Phoenix event was kind of anticlimactic to me, but they're finally getting ready to fight in the King in Black event that we saw one crossover already. So we'll see how this all, slowly comes to an end in 45. Next up from Aftershock is The Bequest #2. I picked up this first one off the new issue table. It was not originally on the pull list for me, but I liked it. That it's interesting to kind of look at how characters are built in this world, that it has a very fun D&D kind of feel to me. I know that my girl Nat, who's Jin in something, really kind of enjoyed the way the narrative was put together, so I'm interested to see what this story kind of does. From Marvel is Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade #2. Didn't read the first one, still in my to-read pile. I'm ready to check it out. From Dark Horse is Kajarku the Skinner #1. This looked interesting to me in terms of some random kind of fantasy witch stuff happening in post-World War II Europe. I'm definitely down to give this a chance. We'll see if it survives the pull list after it, but it's a couple of things I'm into, so we'll see. Next up is Matt Kint's and Company's Crimson Flower #4. I've really enjoyed the oddity of this story in terms of a woman looking to avenge her father's death. Really what sells me on this book is just the oddity of the art that, I come up with fancy phrases to describe it every week, and one this week is escaping my brain, but I really, really, really enjoy this book. Next from DC is The Flash 769. I was kind of intrigued with the first book in this Infinite Frontier world now that Wally West is in the time stream. We're dealing with Kid Flash. I'm intrigued with what's going on, but I think there might be too much Flash stuff going on that I'm unaware of to fully understand this book. But I'll be along for another issue or two after this one to see really what I think. Next up from Image is Haha #4. I've loved this series. I am loving each of the character profiles that we're kind of getting in this, sad horror weird universe. The Remy the mime really got to me in #3, so I want to see what happens in this one. And it's a watercolor issue, which I think it's nice to see a lot of the radically different styles in each of these books. Next from Vault is I Walk with Monsters #5. I haven't read 3 and 4. They're in my still play catch-up issue, but I really love the first two. So I'll probably do a series review of I Walk with Monsters here when I can talk again. Next up from Aftershock is Elliot Rahal and team's Knock 'em Dead #5. I've really enjoyed the after effects of the reverse exorcism in terms of getting Lenny Bruce placed in our main character. this has just been a weird, good, like, dark comedy. Next up is Luna number 3. I really love the first one. Number 2 is still in my play catch-up pile, and it's kind of lame listening to me talk about some books this week. Because a lot of them I'm like, up, behind, up, behind, up, behind. It's like every book is death metal. Or Sweet Tooth the Return. Next up from AWA is Man's World number 4. Learning everything that kind of lurks as threats on this resort planet that aren't just the people who are trying to kill our wealthy a-holes is very intimidating and frightening to me. But it's interesting to just kind of watch all of the threats all around the place kind of convalesce around the primary party of characters. So I am intrigued to see what happens in the final 2 issues. Next up from Boom Studios is The Many Deaths of Lila Starr number 1. Really all that I will tell you is that I saw Ram V's name on this and Felipe Andrade on this and knew that I wanted to check this book out. I remember reading the preview, but mostly bought it based on the names and the number 1 from Boom Studio. Next up from Marvel is The Mighty Valkyries number 1. I am excited for this series. I loved Jane Foster Valkyrie. I loved the Rise of the Valkyries, the King in Black tie-in. So now I want to see what it looks like when Jane Foster is no longer alone, what the army of Valkyries look like. That I'm very excited to see kind of their new brand, their new relationship, their new what are they doing to fight. Next up is Pantomime number 6 from Mad Cave Studios. I'm real sad that this book is coming to a close, that I've really enjoyed this book for a million reasons that I've mentioned in every other video where this book has come out, in terms of looking at the representation of people who are deaf, in terms of looking at the innovation that I think Justin Birch is doing in lettering to kind of show the variety of types of communication that happen in this book, the heist story, the art. There are just so many things that are going right in this book for me that, again, this is if you have missed out, pick up the trade. It's a good story. Next up from Image is Post Americana number 5. First, this cover is just absolutely weird with the little pink elephant and the egg. But I'm loving this post-apocalyptic world. You have an odd pairing that has to come together and hopefully fight together to survive. They're dealing with the cannibals. They're dealing with the rise of the tyrant president of the fallen American, states. So, very excited here. Next up is Power Rangers 6, still behind. Next up is Radiant Black number 3. I liked issue 2 better than I did issue 1. We will still see if this is going to kind of play its way out as kind of the game-changing new superhero story from Image that they were kind of hyping it up to be after number 1. Next up is Rain Like Hammers number 4. I meant to take this off of my pull list because after I was talking to a couple of folks after number 3, apparently the dude who writes these books is not a good person, that when he was labeled with some Me Too allegations, he responded with a diss track. So literally the only reason I'm still going to pick this book up is because I ordered it from my LCS and I don't want them to eat the $5. Next, Resonant number 9. We are in the penultimate issue of the series that we know that it's contracted for 10. In interviews with everybody that David Andrew has talked to, he says he's got up to 15, but that we are preparing for the story to end, which makes me sad because I think this is a very, very intriguing read. Next up, Sword number 4. I'm behind in my X-Men reading, but I've really enjoyed the different ways that we've learned about this team and about 2 of the primary characters so far recently. So now that we're seeing space murders happen, now it's happening outside of the King in Black event again. I'm excited to see what happens. Next up is Spider-Woman 11. I've loved this series. She survived all of the dealings with Octavia Spencer, dealing with all of the clones of her mother who were attacking her. So I'm wondering if this is kind of a fresh start for Jessica Drew and we see what she has to deal with now that she's not worried she's going to die from a disease again. Next up from Image is Stray Dogs number 3. I really love the first two. The ending of book 2 was kind of creepy, where we may have learned that the master of the house is not only a murderer, but he might also be going to dog parks to pick up women and then kill them, but then also keep all of their dogs. Weird, but good. Next up from Image Skybound is Ultra Mega number 2. I'm excited for this book. I really enjoyed number 1, but I also remember the week of, there was an interesting article that came out through, I think, the Huffington Post, that talked about this book in terms of looking at a couple of different tropes that the author of that article were critical of, in terms of looking at, like, the Madonna versus the whore dyad of the two women that were in there. There were some questions of erasure of people of color from a kaiju story. And after reading that criticism, I looked through some of the items of issue 1 and kind of understand where the author of that piece comes from, with little bits of disagreement. So I'll look at, Ultra Mega number 2 with a little bit more of a critical lens, but we'll see. Next up from Marvel is Way of X number 1, because I need another X-Men book to be behind on in my life, but, like, Nightcrawler starts a religion. Dope. I'm gonna check it out. X-Force number 19, the battle against the person who is responsible for the nightmares, is finally coming to a head. This has been trippy. The art in X-Force the last couple of books has been kind of interesting and quite exceptional, so I'm excited to finally get caught up to get to this book. And then my last book for the week from Behemoth Comics is You Promised Me Darkness number 1. So this is not only my first Behemoth book that I think that is on my pull list ever, but I'm intrigued in terms of looking at, is there something that happens on the day that Halley's Comet passes the Earth? Like, could people be born with abilities? Does, what happens in all of this? And I can't remember what it was that compelled me to make this my first Behemoth book to check out, but I'll definitely let you know what I think, probably on the blog, because I don't know if I'll be able to do a review video. Next up is the Scout books we'll talk about. I can't remember if this was in my Scout box or if it is in this month's box, but it's Unicorn number 1. It is from their Scoot imprint. So with this, it will be a number 1, and then they are non-stop titles as well, which means you'll get a trade in a couple of months. What do you think? Is there anything that I'm missing out on that you think that I would be into this week? I have been bad about checking in on my pull list and updating things the last couple of weeks as school has gotten a lot more chaotic. But if there's something you think I would like, definitely let me know in the live chat over here, or if you're watching in the rewind, on the comments below. But as always, y'all, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.
Thank you for being a friend.
And from my heart, I want to give you a big Bronx yeah. Yo, big things soon to come. Keep doing your thing. Come.
And I want to thank you. Thank you, silence.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.